Okay, 2 minutes. Let's start. So, hi everyone. Thanks for coming for this webinar. Today we're going to talk about a process I've been working with clients, and it's going to be part of a series of webinars I'm going to do about test planning. What we're going to do today is the top level test planning, um, and it is a process, a meeting, a document. We'll talk about that. Something that we do in order to get everyone on board and understand what we want to get to, what are the big things that are in our way in a minimum of time, because time is precious. We don't have a lot of that. So we're going to say goodbye to Shawn Michaels. A bit of a presentation. If you don't know me yet, my name is Gil. I'm a trainer and a consultant, and I work with all kinds of people who want to make software better. That means testers and developers, and DevOps, and everyone else. What we're going to discuss today is something that I kind of pulled in from my mentoring with clients. And although we're going to talk about top-level test planning, it's a lot about planning, and so you can get from that kind of things, you can pull value from that, from not just from testing, but all kinds of planning activities. I think it's very valuable. I've seen it work very well. So I'm gonna start with a quote, not Gru's quote, but former president of the US said, "Plans are nothing, planning is everything." And I don't know what he meant by that. Tell you why this resonates with me. Plans are something that we kind of build and we invest time in, and finally there's a document and we do something with it, and the minute after that, they're not really, I won't say that they're not worth anything, but things change. And therefore, a lot of the effort that we put in and invest in that kind of goes away. So what is planning is everything. It is, if we're doing a lot of discussions and we communicate and we find out that we're making assumptions that other people are not making those assumptions. This process of thinking, of communicating, of thinking about what we need to do, what we need to do first, what we need to handle or mitigate, this is a lot of value. And you've all been in parts of planning, whatever, you probably understand that. And we want to balance that with, like I said, the more we invest in things and we're planning ahead too much, we know that things are going to change. And if they're going to change, we want to kind of balance that. We want to at least say, well, this is our playground, and this is what we're playing, and this is what everyone needs to know. And since they know that, it kind of gives them like a northern light or a guiding light, or something that they say, well, this is the important stuff. We always need to remember that, and we kind of compare everything else that we do compared to that. And this is the idea behind that. So, like I said, things will change. We know that it's going to be there's going to be some kind of waste, and that's okay. The longer we are from what we're going to do, and let's call it, we're going to call it today the release point. If we do like, I don't know, if we have like a big release, like 3 months from 3 months from now, 6 months from now, and we doing like 2 days of planning for this release, we know that a lot of this time will go wasted. So we'd rather not do this. We'd rather at least create some kind of structure, like I said, that will resonate with everyone. Everyone will see it, and it will work with it. So basically what we want is like a common goal. And think about, like, again, I'll go back to the big release. There could be like many features that we're planning and so on. And there's going to be multiple teams working on that. And even if we're doing like a sprint meeting, and I'll talk about like short versus long. But if you do sprint meeting, everyone wants to get to the end of the sprint 2 weeks from now or 1 week from now with the main things completed. So what we're trying to have is some kind of coherence, like everyone working on towards the same goal on the same page, and not just that, kind of want to get to an agreement that this is the right way to go. If we don't do this, like I said, when the bigger the risk, every team or everyone on the team will figure out what's important, because nobody's stupid working on the project, but they may not think that this is the same important things. And when they pull on different directions, we don't get where we want to go. So it's important to have this kind of agreement of where we're going to go, and this coherence. We're going to set boundaries. It kind of goes with the coherence. And I'll show you examples, of course, what I'm talking about. But again, we're kind of trying to pull in the same directions. We can go in different ways, but this main direction will not change. So here's an asterisk. Things will change, and maybe the big decisions will change as well, and that's okay too, because if we're not changing, we're just sticking to the plan, and reality has changed. We're not doing like something right. So everything's in may change. We're kind of assuming that the big things will not. And if they changed, probably good reason for that, and that's okay as well. But you need to make sure that everybody knows that things have changed. The final thing that is going to be part of this, like a small process, is like identifying big risks, things that we know now that are going to bite us, and we need to do something about them. We're not going to solve everything, probably, but we're going to say, well, these are the things that everybody needs to know that in order to get to this goal, we need to take care of. So we'll see that later. So the way I described it, you probably think there's a meeting in order to do that, and probably you want a meeting, but it doesn't have to be. Like if you're doing like a sprint planning for something short, you're already there. If you're doing it for a small thing, maybe pass around like a document and make sure that it's okay with everyone. But it doesn't have to be a meeting. But if there is a meeting, you probably want everyone that's going to have some kind of input in that. That means testers, obviously, but also product, the developer leads, maybe the developers. If you're doing like a sprint planning, like everyone's going to be there, cool. Sometimes you want someone from DevOps. We'll see examples of what things we probably identify, and therefore we might want somebody else in this. And we want that in order to do the next steps, which are like detailed planning and stuff like that. Because once we enter that, like if everybody's on the same page, they will probably go and do something about it. Take, for example, developers. If they see if they are part of this kind of discussion, they know that, I don't know, they need to feature X is going to be the main feature in this release. That means that they need to know, and they will probably know, that it needs to be tested well and by them before we're going to start even API testing or UI testing, something like that. So when everyone's on the same page, we're kind of pulling towards the same goal. This is what we want. Okay, so what are we coming out with this kind of thing? So it's like a document. It doesn't have to be a document, but basically 4 components that, like I said, everyone agreed on and is in front of everyone. The first, it probably, if you want to, it's going to be like a 1-pager. That's cool, and that's probably what you want in terms of content. Could be an email. That's good as well. Could be a WhatsApp message. It could be a lot of things, but we probably want this like a 1-pager thing. In the end, there's going to be a template that you can download from the site, and you can take a look at that. I'll show you examples of what we want. And basically what does it include? The focus, what we're actually focusing on. Makes sense. We'll talk about that. Important things, the important workflows that we're going to concentrate on, and the order of work. And we'll talk about prioritization as well. The unknowns that we know we don't know. It's not the unknowns that we don't know, it's the unknowns that we do know that we are missing and we need to do something about it. The must, which is kind of a quality acceptance criteria, and we'll talk about that as well. What doesn't go in there? No details. We're doing this like in very top level, high level stuff. So we're not going into details. We're not going to talk about test design, how we're going to test. Okay, some of it will be, you'll see at examples, like well, there's going to be some kind of thinking about how we're going to approach these things, but they're not going to be like complete solutions or steps or details of how we're going to do stuff, because that's the detailed planning that we're going to do later on. Another thing that is not going to be there is estimates. Now, I'm not really big on estimates anyway, but since we're now just figuring out what we're going to focus on, we're not kind of completing anything about the entire content and how to do it. Therefore, estimates is like out of the questions to discuss right now. So there's not much point in doing that at this point. I mentioned big releases and short sprints. This kind of thing, like you can scale it in different ways. The cool thing for like sprints, it will take like 5 minutes. Everybody's already there. Make sure that everyone agrees. These are the important things. These are main workflows. This is what we need to do. Let's start planning a bit more in a structured way, and that's enough. Obviously, when we're talking about like longer processes and maybe scale processes, like it's not just a team, like multiple teams are working with that, probably want to do something in terms of like this is like a kickoff, start of the planning, and get the heads or the top people going to be there, and then spread it around, and you can pass the output of this into the small teams, and the teams can do the same thing for themselves, and so it can actually scale very well in different discussions. Okay, so let's start. I said there are 4 components. First one is the release goal. So try to say in one sentence what you actually want. Now, if you've done your sort of agile homework, you know there's something called in sprints, sprint goal. And this is in the short scale, exactly that. What is a sprint goal in terms in agile definitions? That's the main focus of the sprint, and everybody needs to know that in order to deliver that thing. That thing belongs to both developers and testers and everyone else, because this is the main focus. And we want the same thing for the release. And like, I understand like big releases you probably have like millions of features planned for that. Try to say what you're trying to achieve, because what we're trying to achieve really is kind of giving a direction. And what you're trying to achieve is not a feature. Trying to basically do something valuable for the user, so they can do something better, something stronger, faster, and so on. This is the sentence that we're talking about, because if this sits in our head, like everything, that small thing that we do, and compared to that, we kind of say, well, this requires a bit more effort, a bit more modifications, a bit more amplification. And in terms of testing, more testing, less testing, needs to be more robust, less robust. So this kind of goal that we're talking about can give us direction. So I'm going to give you the big examples. Going to be in our case, it's going to be like an excellent text editor that we're doing. And in a sprint, it's going to be like improve user experience, which is like a good goal, kind of translate to multiple things. In a release, it can something like you've probably seen something like that before, like a mobile version of everything that we have. Try to do that instead of features, like user can do something, like use kind of in our mind, we translate workflows or value better than what the features can do. That's good to have. And that's, like I said, a one-liner. You don't need more than that. So now we're going to get in a bit more details, and I'm calling this content. I thought of calling it coverage, but it's not, because it's the main content. We're going to work on all kinds of things, but among them there are things that are more important than others in terms of priorities, right? So what we want to put there is the things that we want to actually do, and if time runs out, we want this to be tested. Okay, this is like the thinking about it. All the other things that we'll do can be tested if we had the time, can be tested less if we had the time. So the thinking is like what we have in this like one pager or something like that is we're going to have at least this. And like I said in the beginning, we're talking about test planning, but you can see that it can go both in development and other stuff as well. So like I said, if value is something that is better than features, workflows also translates in our head to something better than features. So if I told you, like, for example, if our editor needs to support themes, like the themes is a feature, so everybody gets in their own head what kind of support they need. So if we just put in like theme support, it's not going to be the same for everyone. Okay, so we probably want to specify at least some kind of scenario that we want there as well. So for example, like in theme support, you can say the user can change between themes or import a theme from an external program. Like this is a workflow, because this is sorry, this is something that we can actually picture in our mind how the user does things, and we can sort of explain to ourselves and assume, and everybody else will assume also the same thing, but what does that mean in terms of how the user does it, what they see at the end. So try to do this in terms of workflows rather than features. If you've done story mapping, for the user wants to do this, so they do this and they see that. And story mapping is a way to like cut down big features or epics into small workflows. Think about that as well. So it's kind of similar, only we're not doing the entire breakdown. It's like just filling up the main workflows. And in terms of like big releases, like epics, okay? You don't need to break everything down. You just need to have someone there to tell these other things are important. So this is an example. So I put down in our excellent text editor two features that are supporting user experience, and then they're relating to shortcuts and themes. And these are the things that we decided from shortcuts and themes that we want to support. The user can copy a line with one shortcut. User can import themes from external programs. The user can drag a line up and down. Like these are the things that, at least if times runs out, we want this inside. In terms of testing, we want them tested very well. We can do other stuff. We can do like, if you're doing this for a big release, you kind of think, well, I'm going to have hundreds of lines here. Don't. Big releases stop, no, 5 or 3 per team or something like that. Try to box yourself into this and say these are the important stuff, because this is the idea of this meeting and document and output. We're going to work on that. All the other stuff is less important. What do we want? This is like something that we do. What don't we put here? We want main workflow, so that we variants of that. We're not going into details. Error handling. What happens if the user wants to copy a line with one shortcut, but is working on an empty file? Not at this point. Put just like top level in order for this to enter people's minds. So no special cases, stuff like that. Just the main workflow. So yeah, think about it. Don't overthink it. And then that's not enough, because we kind of said out of all the things that we want to achieve, these are the important stuff, but we want them prioritized. 1, 2, 3. And this is again, and it's something that comes from agile and lean, and Just makes sense because time may and will probably run out. So out of these things that are really important for us, which are more important than others? And in our terms, we're doing test planning. If times runs out and we only have time for just one thing to complete, what is it? Now, this is very hard to do, especially for product managers who want everything and everything tested and in the same quality and so on. So I want everything tested and everything in the same priority is not valuable for this discussion, because even product managers know that times runs out. So we need to have this kind of discussion of if it does, what we're going to do. And this has the effect of, again, focusing things and also starting thinking about ideas of how to make this happen. And we're not there yet, but also kind of a picture in our mind of how we know that we can move on to other stuff. So well, how done is really done. So we actually want that. And like I said, try to limit the scope because it's hard to prioritize like hundreds of stuff, and we don't want that. So even in big releases, try to put it down into big workflows that you want to support, and then you prioritize them. Somebody will say, hey, there are going to be like 3 teams working on that. Of course, we can do 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, and 6, because it's going to be spread out around teams. And the answer will be, okay, but if one is very, very important, which one is it? Let's assume things will break down, because they will. What do we want to complete? And this is kind of, like I said, it's very, for people who don't want to prioritize because they want everything, it's very hard to do. But this is like product manager's job. This is what they're paid to do. They need to say this is more important than other things. So priorities, add priorities, 1, 2, 3, and this tells people one is important than the other. That's basically it. It's also important to know why things are important. Some of it you'll probably know, maybe not everyone will know, but some of it, like, it's good to know, like, kind of, because we put the release goal like at the top, right? And it said, this is what is important for us. Do these workflows reflect that? And if not, like, there's a discussion to be here. It's okay to have this kind of discussion. And if it doesn't fit, we probably want to know what is the idea behind it. Again, this is like coherence. We're trying to get everybody on the same page, one pager, and in the right direction, and everybody agrees on that. The more people understand what's behind the reasoning about this, they will go along. Okay, so we got that. But before we leave content, we need to do something more. Usually when we're doing stuff, we're kind of focusing on the new stuff, new features, new workflows, and kind of assume that everything else that we've done until now will continue to work as is. And sometimes this assumption is like valid, because like we have very good automation suite, and we just need to forget about everything that we've done, because it will just run and tell us like, this is it. Everything still works. But if we don't, we still need to at least specify what is important for out of the things that we either don't have automation for, or if we don't have complete automation, uh, what is still expected to work. Because if you don't have like time for full regression, a manual regression to run, that will take time, and time outside the thing that you're working on the new stuff. So kind of at this point, like, want to specify in our table of sorts what is still important. And again, everything should continue to work. It's a nice wish list. Will it work? No. But if we specify a couple of things in front of people, they will get an idea of what we're kind of aiming for. So we want that. And you obviously want to take into account like your status in terms of automation, stuff like that. So it's okay. And we'll see an example of that here. So I kind of add sort of a column, tells us that these are the new stuff. 4 and 5 are from the old stuff, and we probably want to work on this in this order. This is the priorities. So kind of specify everything that we want, the main things. One table, cool, everybody knows where we're going. Okay, so this is like what we want to achieve. Well, let's talk about things that are going to get in our way. And the first thing that we're going to, and we call that constraints. Constraints are things that we either we need to go around or go through them. Things that risk our idea of delivering what we want. In our case, testing everything that we want. The first one is deadlines. Deadlines are good. Let's start with that. Deadlines are behavior modifiers. If we know that something's going to be released, we're going to focus on some things. And if you worked in some kind of an agile or scrum thing, you know that iterations or sprints are time boxed for that reason. Like the ideas of focusing within a time box is something that we already seen and it works very well. So deadlines, though, we probably want to know where they come from. So here's an example: sprints. Like if we release like every 2 weeks, okay, is the deadline important? Okay, we can have a discussion. Well, what happens if we skip a day or not, or go a day early? Is that bad? And the idea behind the sprint deadline is that we need to focus in terms of planning and work. Yes. Is it too bad to go 1 day or 1 day early? Not that bad. Like this is an arbitrary thing that we took upon ourselves to do. Some deadlines are not arbitrary. We need to meet Black Friday is not going to move, right? So we want to release this thing, this set of features or workflows before Black Friday. This is not going to move, and that means that if time runs out, we need to negotiate and do stuff like that. Usually, we need to understand where the deadlines are coming from. So the first thing everybody needs to know: this is our goal date for release, because after that we kind of compare everything to even in our mind we didn't do any estimations, stuff like that, kind of thinking, can we fit that? Probably. Good. Never going to do that. Well, we need to think about what goes in. So let's talk about if we have like a Black Friday thing, I can't move. Usually what we're negotiating or trying to reduce is scope, workflow, content, stuff like that, and or quality. Whatever we have 3 days before Black Friday, this is what we go out with. Okay, but if we're dealing with arbitrary deadlines, uh, we can think what's important, because sometimes, like if there's going to be an extra sprint, right? If we're not releasing now, it's going to be in 2 weeks later. Not that big a deal. Okay, let's improve quality rather than scope. So things will not ready. We'll test a bit more and make sure that when the things will go out, they will go out in the quality that we want. So first of all, everybody needs to understand the deadlines and what's behind them. Let's talk about availability. Things that we know, because like I said, the things that we don't know, we'll discover. But the things that we do know, kind of need to think about different kinds of availabilities that are going to like happen that we know, and therefore we need to do something about it. So obviously the first thing is people. Maybe people like a short sprint, not much going on, like probably it will be okay. A release, like we don't know what will happen. We kind of assume like the same number of people. We need to increase number. We need to have this kind of discussion to have at least an idea of, can we do this with what we have right now, or maybe we need to add people. Again, the main idea here, that the common awareness of this is what we want to achieve. And while we're scaling it down in big things, like we'll think about this. Is this achievable in our context? Options that you still have if people are not enough, add more people, depending on how long you have. Shift responsibilities in the team, like shift left. Shift left means that we're raising quality by shifting responsibilities. Developers take more accountability to the quality, therefore we raise quality, therefore we raise where we can release more working features. Get reinforcements from other teams. we can do something about it. So, but people need to be aware that, yeah, we think this is okay. We kind of have an idea of what we need to do in order to get there. It may not be something that we can do today. Doesn't have to be solved today. But if we need some kind of mitigation, we need some kind of mitigation plan, and we need an owner for that. I'll talk about that too, and somebody who needs to do something, who can do something about it. Hopefully, we got them in the meeting. Equipment. Used to work. You probably heard me saying that before, with uh, real big hardware, software that worked with hardware, and at some points the hardware was not there because it was still being developed. So we didn't delay testing the software until we got the hardware. But one of the mitigation things that we did, we built a simulator. So we need to understand that. And hardware is not just the hardware, because once we got the hardware, for examples, we needed chemicals. Yes, it was a chemical device. So we need to have some kind of lead time for ordering the reagents, and okay, the plan's in place. People need to be aware that this is what we're going to know, what we're going to need, and it's going to be there in front of people's eyes, and like it's a thing that we need to take care of. The final things of skills and knowledge. I'll give you an example later, but the problem with either skills, things we need to learn new stuff, is not just we are going to learn this. All right, we're going to need to learn and maybe even do some training, and then we're going to need to internalize this, and then we're going to practice until we get to make working this thing that we learned well. So if we why is it here? Like we kind of assume that we're going to learn mobile development. Yeah, well, it's going to take time to learn mobile development. So first of all, we need to put it here, and we probably, if that's a big thing, want to put some kind of an owner on that, because if it's going to be like a big thing, not like a 2-hour learning, we want somebody responsible, not just like making sure this thing happens, getting the resources that we need, like even spreading the knowledge later. So we want this to say, we are missing this today. We want to have this at the end. In order to do that, let's make a plan for that. Some other things are things that we're not going to do ourselves, but we may need somebody else's help. So for something like DevOps, right? So we need like a new environment for testing. We don't do it ourselves. We need this. Something that is missing, we know it's missing. We need somebody from DevOps. And again, if you actually want to make this happen, invite somebody from DevOps to this meeting. If you have like missing knowledge, you kind of have like a security or performance thing. Think that the knowledge is not really spread around the organization, but you have like one special genius and she working in another building, and you need her for consultation or the training or doing the entire testing. She needs to know, and her bosses need to know that. So we kind of put the ideas here. They're not final ideas. It's not like, yeah, we assign Jennifer to doing the security testing, even if we didn't talk to her like 3 months ago. So, but it's going to be there. And like everybody on the team says, in order to achieve this, we need Jennifer. So once you got this, you kind of review what you did, make sure that everything correlates. It's a one page, it's not a big document. Like I said, things on the wall. Does the risks and the things kind of match what we want to achieve? If not, let's do a review, think again. So final piece of the puzzle are the musts. This is like a quality criteria, or acceptance criteria, or release criteria, because we already said what we want, but like it's a wish list, we may not get what we want. And therefore, out of the subset that we already picked that is really important here, we still want these things to work. Again, the product manager will say, I want everything to work, but let's get like an idea of what works means. So something important to say. Usually when it comes time to release, we have a kind of release meeting. And this, I don't know how it works in your organizations. Many organizations have different ways of doing that, like even for sprint meetings. for sprint releases. They have some kind of discussion of what is ready, what is not ready. And we kind of, at the last point, doing some kind of quality negotiations, basically. We tested this, we didn't test that. So we don't know how this feature X is working. We tested Y, and Y is working okay, Z is working perfect. Is it okay to release? And there's going to be some arm wrestling and so on. Will either release or not. And the question is, how have we come to this point? And we've come to this point by running forward, maybe in different directions, got to where we are. They didn't move. We're looking at what we have and now say, okay, is it good enough or not good enough? What if we did this discussion of what must be in the beginning? If we did that, like it's very logical. If we did that, not only people will work towards achieving this kind of quality from the top, because it will get its own priority. People will have a picture of what works means, and therefore it will make that. It will happen, at least the idea is that the chances of that happening are very high. So what we want is like take a subset of what we want, and at least this has to work, maybe even as a mental exercise. If this doesn't work, we can't release. This has to work in order for us to release. And it's probably going to be a subset of the things that we already described at the top, because we've already been there. So how you present and how you're doing that, it depends on you, but I'd like to do it like a mental exercise. The idea about it is like thinking in advance in order not to get to the point when you're actually thinking, is it good enough or not? Like work towards the good enough. So something like this. User can duplicate a single line with a shortcut, like line will be pasted in the next row. This is what done looks like. User can duplicate an empty line with one shortcut. Empty line will appear in the next row. Don't worry, I'll show examples of the big things. But an idea of this has to work. And once people have this idea in their head, they will work towards that. The developer will make sure that these two things actually working. And the testers will check that and make sure that everything around that is working. So we kind of change or modify our idea of what working is and what releasable is only by saying this has to work. It's very easy to do. Well, it's very simple to do. Not sure it's going to be easy, but it is very simple to do. So for example, things that can work. Let's say, let's look at the user can duplicate a single line. Okay, what we didn't specify it, like we cannot duplicate multiple lines. It is probably maybe going to be part of the development and testing plan, but it's not in these two lines, two rows here. So if we get to test it, great. If it's working, if we get to test it and it's even working, even great. If we tested it didn't work, still okay, because it's not a release idea for something, because we already thought about this and this is not as important, this thing. Again, things may change. You may think probably enjoy release meetings, so you'll probably have this discussion anyway, but you'll always have this guiding light of saying these are the things that are important. So again, two questions to answer here. What must work in order to release? Or if something doesn't work, we don't release. No, it's very painful to say this kind of sentence. Try it. The terms of what's working on acceptance criteria, you can actually do a bit more than that, and depending on how well you're trained in this kind of process, you can say that, well, works means like it's this thing, these things are not just like tested, but we actually have an automated test for that. Okay, without that, we can't release. So you can play with that width of the quality. It's not just, I know it goes into design, but for the things that are usually important, you probably want to set some kind of, I don't want to get there anymore again. So we probably want some kind of idea of automated manual. You probably can think about your options as well. And once you have these kind of things, you can, like, first of all, review what you did before. It needs to correlate with the main when workflows. It all needs to correlate with all the constraints, but then you get like a pager. So let me show you examples of like how this looks like. So this is an example of a pager for a sprint. Like we have the release goal, kind of summarizes the thing that we talked before. Improved user experience. These are the main workflows that we're doing. And this is like a copy of the table that you saw before. User can copy a line. Is it new? Yes. And these two things at the bottom are not new. Then we have the constraints. I haven't showed you, so let's look. Deadline, October 1st, that's the next sprint. No owner, the entire team. Team availability, yeah, nobody's going on vacation. Cool, we don't need to do anything about that. If there's going to be a discussion of what we probably want. Do we need help from other teams? Yeah, probably need a separating testing environment. Who we need it from? DevOps. That means you hopefully got someone from DevOps on this kind of meeting, and you probably want that. Do we need other requirements for our excellent text editor? No. Missing skills? Well, we have like the thing that we're going to export from, so we need to kind of understand how to work with the tool that we're going to export the theme from, and then import it to Art and see the schema of the theme and stuff like that. Let's put something we don't know and put some developer in that, and they will teach us. Doesn't have to be a developer, of course, could be a tester. If the developer is not there, put someone who is on on the meeting as well. What must work? So let's slim this down too. The user can copy a single line with one shortcut. We know it works if line is pasted in the next row. Things are really easy to explain here. User can import themes from VS Code. So we don't like import everything from everywhere. In order to release, at least this has to work. Fonts, icons, background color. Other things, not so important. Okay. User can edit existing document. Here we like the old stuff, like we want this relates to number 4 here. Yes, we have a full regression of automated tests. Everything still needs to pass. Excellent. So this is like a short version, a short version of something for a sprint. Let's take a look at something that's a bit bigger. Right, let's say it's a release. So like I said, mobile version, it is a one sentence, usually kind of, it is vague. It's supposed to be vague because of one sentence. It sends the idea, like we have the web version of our excellent text editor, and now we're going to do a mobile version. So that means that it already creates a picture in our head of where we're going to work, what kind of things that we need to work on, what needs to stay the same. But again, if you try to at least think about the value, sometimes it's translatable, sometimes it's not, so you'll see what works for you. Main content, like we're talking about 3 teams working on that. How do you get to 4 lines here? You think in a higher level. So open existing docs on Android and iPhone, edit existing docs only on Android, open save docs from mobile on the web app, the existing web app. These are going to be new workflows that we want to do, new, and the web version, whatever worked before, still needs to work. Now, can we write this? Again, depending on understanding of how well the web version works. If it's fully automated, we may not even put the sentence here. If it's not fully automated, we probably want to at least give an idea of this. And now when we spread it out to the rest of the team, they'll decide what they want to do with their own version of the table. Let's look at the constraints. Deadline, March 1st, can't move. Why? Must be something interesting about March 1st. It could be that something like completely simple. This is where it's going to be like 3 months from now, and therefore this is where we're going to do the release. Or there could be something like interesting, like we have to release this because our competitor is going to come out on March 2nd with a better mobile version of the editor. Product needs to say what is important here. Team availability. So we kind of have like existing teams, like the structure that we have. We see it's okay. We'll probably need to add more people. And now need to add more people. We don't have like a solution how to do this. Like, let's say it's like, I know it's not 3 months from now, but let's say it is 3 months from now. You won't get 3 people 3 months from now working on this project effectively. Okay, so there may be other ways to do this, but currently this is what we're thinking, and we're kind of missing a couple more people who can take a charge in that and how to solve that. We're not solving that now, but we'll probably need someone at the level of the VP R&D in order to do that, because it could be like a director or something like that that can move things forward in terms of acquiring resources for that. Help from other teams. We need a new pipeline. Obviously, DevOps will help there. Testing environment as well. And we know that there are other teams that are working and doing mobile, not us, because we did web until now. So there is some kind of infrastructure. We need to learn all kinds of things. We need to use the infrastructure thing. So somebody from the infra team, we need help with that, how to use their modules in our software. So identify that. Like I said, can only identify things that we know about. We put it down. Some day or some minutes later, we're going to start creating a plan for that as well. Other requirements, how to testing, we need a couple of devices for testing, some kind of a browser stack or something like that, or Perfecto device from virtual device farm. Put it down, put someone on it, team lead, maybe. Missing skills, yeah, we don't know anything about the infrastructure. Setting up tests for Appium, we need to learn that. And here's something new. We decided that instead of writing our tests and what until now in Python, we're going to move to Kotlin. Why? Reasons. And we don't know. This is something that we are missing. Let's put something in there so we know that this is like going to be at least planned for in terms of details and how to move this forward. The musts: open existing docs in Android and iPhone. Yes, what must work? You can access and view saved documents from the main app on latest gen iOS. So again, these are the musts, what must work. So whatever latest gen, it doesn't have iOS and Android on 3 different devices. We didn't say what exactly works, what details work, but kind of give you an idea. Well, without this, we can't release. We haven't tested this on 3 devices. On latest gen, not much point in releasing. Edit existing docs on Android, at least basic capabilities that people who have used a mobile device know that at least you can select, copy, and paste things, at least on Android, and save the document. And at least we want something that you edited on mobile to open a doc. So once you're loaded and you start editing, that's good enough for now. Again, doesn't go into details, exactly which documents, by whom, which permissions, stuff like that. No, that's the big idea of what at least needs to work. You push it down to the other teams, they'll take it down from there, and we'll plan ahead. What happens next? Well, if you're doing like a sprint, just move into regular planning. Like everything agrees on what's important, what's missing, what's on. Let's do some detailed planning, what we're going to do, how we're going to do this test design, and so on. You show this to the developers if they are not part of the discussion, because they can take it and they can at least know what is important for testing in order to do the release. So again, it's a one-pager. It's not like setting out 2 hours of their time to read a full document or email. No, this is the small Bible that we need in order to move forward. But of course, if they're part of the discussion. It's not even that. You start planning ahead, creating mitigation plans once you identify that. And it's okay, things will change, you'll learn that you'll need new plans. That's okay. But again, you've done the smallest effort in terms of saying, well, we need to work on these things. These are important. This is what it looks like. And we need to make sure that this thing happens. That's basically it. So why did I take an hour of your time to do this? We're trying to save time. Then we were trying to save big time, because creating this kind of guiding light or attractor or something like that, the guiding light that where people are at least are aware of what's important and what we need to be aware of, kind of pulls them whenever they start running in different directions. This is what we want to kind of not help create. We don't want to get to the finish line and say, well, this is what we have. No, we want some kind of direction. And the way we apply it in sprints and regular agile development, we can do this like in big things as well. As long as we do like that, the first thinking, the creating these boundaries and saying that this is important for us, don't forget it. And like I said, it is scalable, like in levels of detail, and it doesn't have to be 2 days of your time every sprint. No, in the sprints, like it's like 5 minutes. And even in release time, you don't have everyone to be there for 2 days. You get like an hour, and you get like this because product will probably uh, identify these things up in advance. But like having this kind of discussion saying, oh, we identified these that we need to take care of. This doesn't make sense. Specify what you actually want. What are we trying to achieve with this? Okay, we have this. Let's start planning. And things will change. School can change. Don't need to do everything again. Unless you change something major, and then you might want to consider doing this kind of round big thing for 5 teams again, because you're not doing a mobile version anymore. You're adding something for your text editor on the web. Probably want to review that again. And that's what I want to share with you today. If you go to this site, you will be able to download this template very soon. This one pager that you can take and can modify. And what I challenge you to do is to try it and tell me how it works for you, and give me feedback on what works for you, and maybe we'll put some modifications in. Other than that, I want to thank you for your time. Hope this was valuable, and I'd like you to take some kind of ideas from that and move forward in your test planning. Please follow me on social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, so on. Come to the next webinars, videos weekly there as well. Follow that as well. And thank you. Bye-bye.